Hi, everybody. So let's talk about how we're going to take that framework for how to kind of structure a longer length essay or a research essay and apply it to Tommy Orange's There. So if you haven't watched this video, make sure you pause and go ahead and watch this video first so that our discussion here will make more sense. So I'll put a link here for you as well, so you can just click on that link and watch that video first. Okay, so back to the task at hand. So the first thing that we want to do is kind of choose our larger focus. So how are we going to what's our kind of general focus as we kind of move into the essay? So that's this kind of concept here that we have at the top. So we could do a theme, and I've given you some themes here. Of course, there are more than this, but I've given you some themes here you can start thinking about. We could use a rhetorical feature or a literary device, and I've given you some kind of things you can think about there. And the last way is we could use a theoretical lens. So we could apply a lens to the text and see what the text now suggests with the lens. So we didn't talk about post-colonial in our literary theory unit, but I think that could be a really powerful lens that you could use to interpret there. Okay, so what I've done here in this slideshow is I've taken each one of these and kind of broken it down and kind of given you this kind of higher level framework of what that would look like. I'm not kind of going into the topic sentences for each one, but rather I'm just kind of giving you the example of the central thesis and then the different mini thesis statements. And then from there, hopefully you're on kind of familiar territory. And then, each one of those mini thesis would be developed with multiple topic sentences. And then we have our support and our axes and all that kind of stuff. So we're just looking at the higher level stuff here in this video. Okay, so the first thing that I looked at was a particular theme. And so perhaps the theme of identity. And we always want to ask that all important so what question, right? If we don't have that kind of so what, we don't have that strong argument. And remember, each one of those mini thesis statements has to be asserting an argument that you think the text is making. And so what does Orange seem to suggest with the theme, right, of identity? And so maybe you ask that question, and this is what you get for your central thesis, and these different kind of colored areas are what we get for each one of the mini thesis statements. So you could break it down into kind of familial identity, racial identity, American identity, right? And then we would have multiple topic sentences coming off each one of these things. So that's one way that you could kind of get into this essay. I also did one on the theme of story. And again, we always want to ask that really, really important question. So what, right? So what is he suggesting with this theme? And then in this case, this would be our central thesis. And these would be those individual mini thesis statements. So again, that's central thesis and then each one of those mini thesis statements. And so here we have this notion about story as a way to kind of heal wounds of the past. And so this individual restoration would be one mini thesis idea. Community restoration could be another thesis idea. Truth seeking could be another mini thesis idea. And again, we'd have multiple topic sentences underneath each one of those. So that's how we could kind of start to kind of outline, kind of get the large broad strokes of our outline kind of started if we were using that first focus of looking at a particular theme. From there, then we'd want to make sure that I'm going to highly encourage you guys, if you have those mini thesis statements, figure out your topic sentences and kind of sketch some of your support before you start drafting your essay so that you're really sure everything is kind of staying unified and organized as you write. By far, that's one of the biggest problems I see when people submit the last essay is that the essay starts to kind of lose its structure. And so I really highly encourage you guys to work from an outline to make sure you maintain your essay structure. Remember, we don't want to start feeling like we're just retelling the story, and that also happens sometimes. And I think that's part of not having that plan in place early on. So make sure you have kind of come up with a really good plan in terms of how you're going to approach the entire essay. Okay, so then we go ahead and kind of use that outline, and you can go ahead and grab that outline off of Canvas. So you can pull up this document here that I have, and you can kind of start sketching out your different ideas. On this document, you could actually write out your mini thesis statement, your different topic sentences, some of your ideas of support, so you can kind of flesh out the ideas here. Okay, so that's if we were looking at using a theme, so looking at story. We could do a similar process if we wanted to think about using a rhetorical or literary device. And so again, we always want to ask that super important so what question. So why is this important? So what's the argument that the text seems to be suggesting? So let's say you were thinking about this idea of the different literary devices that you see happening. So you could look at diction as one mini thesis idea, irony as another, and point of view. And I've actually kind of written a possible mini thesis idea for each one of those different elements of fiction. So that could be another kind of way that you could choose to approach the essay. And again, you'd want to kind of think about what are your topic sentences then under each one of those mini thesis statements. Okay, and then flesh out all your ideas, come up with your support, all that kind of stuff. Our final way that we could kind of look at the text is through a theoretical lens. And so Marxism might be a lens you'd like to use to look at the novel. And again, ask that so what question. So when we view it through that lens, what does Orange seem to suggest? And by the way, just a really quick note, Orange wouldn't be applying this lens. We would be applying the lens to Orange's text. So make sure that your sentence, if you do use a theoretical lens, make sure that you don't say that the author is applying the lens, because again, the author isn't doing this. It's the readers who are doing this. Okay, so through Marxism, perhaps maybe you have something like this as your central thesis, and then you have your kind of mini thesis ideas and around these Marxist concepts of superstructure, false consciousness, and reification. And again, now these would be your mini thesis statements, ideas, and then you'd have to have multiple topic sentences off of each one of these. So that would be one way you could do it. I also wanted to show you that we don't necessarily always have to have threes, right? We might have kind of, in this case, kind of two larger sections, and then we've got those ideas kind of developed underneath those kind of two larger sections. So that could be another way that you could organize it. So you don't necessarily always have to have three. Maybe two works for you, maybe four, right? We kind of talked about that in that Organizing the Research Essay video. So just kind of thinking about what structure works the best for your ideas. Okay, and again, you want to make sure that after you have that kind of larger claim structure in place, to go ahead and kind of flush out what are your topic sentences. And as you're doing this process, some of this stuff might start to shift around or you refine this. So that's why I always encourage you to kind of come up with the entire claim structure early on so that you can kind of make those changes that are probably going to be happening as you come up with your topic sentences, and you can move ideas that need to be moved or make modifications to the mini thesis so that it can hold all of the claims that you would like to discuss. Okay, so that was with the Marxist lens. And then again, you always want to kind of make sure you've got your kind of overarching plan in place. I encourage you to find your support, kind of have that ready to go so that when you're actually drafting your essay, you can just kind of focus on communicating your ideas rather than trying to figure out what it is you want to say. So we use this kind of thing. So either this format, or if you like this format, we use that to kind of figure out what we want to say in our essay. And then when we are actually drafting, we can just focus on doing the communication part. So actually explaining it to another person. Okay, you guys. So again, our kind of three inroads then, if you like a certain theme, or if you are really interested in literary devices or rhetorical features, or a theoretical lens. So that's kind of your select your focus, figure out what your claims are, then kind of start to break down your claims, both on the mini thesis level and then the topic sentences, and then start finding all that support. Okay, you guys, I hope this video helps you out and that you find this project intellectually stimulating and kind of fun to do. Okay, let me know if you have questions. We'll talk soon.